Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 2 minutes past 4. Thank you for those of you that joined sort of a couple of minutes early. I think there might be some people joining shortly, but we will start on this lovely snowy Monday afternoon. So my name's Ben Brown, I'm the designated safeguarding lead at Harris Boys Academy, and it's lovely to be able to present to you today about staying safe online, a guide for parents and carers. Now, if, like me, you grew up with some of the devices that you can see on your screen there, you will be aware that things move very fast and that apps and devices and settings and so on, are very difficult to keep up with. And with that in mind, I just thought I'd show you a picture showing lots of different pieces of technology and how long it took them all to reach 50 million users. So the phone took 75 years to catch on, to get 50 million users. I appreciate populations change, but as you'll see by this, not as quick as some of these things. Radio took 38 years to accumulate 50 million users. Television, 13 years. Mobile phone, 12. Facebook took a mere 5 years to reach 50 million users. The World Wide Web, 4 years. iPods, 3 years. YouTube took only 1 year to reach 50 million users. And wait for it, Angry Birds took 35 days and Pokemon Go took 14 days to reach 50 million users. And really the reason I've showed that to you is to illustrate how fast things move and how difficult it is to keep up with new technology. That said, there are lots of positives with technology, and it's important to remember that. And research shows that outcomes of children are better if they benefit from connected technology. And that could include enhancing teamwork and creativity through games, adding to knowledge. Obviously, there's a lot out there. Households with computers actually perform better academically, studies show. And technology can improve visual intelligence and hand-eye coordination. There is a flip side to that coin, and it can affect development technology. So sleep cycles can be affected by blue light from screens. Screen-based entertainment has been shown to increase central nervous system arousal, and our millennials are, studies have shown, more forgetful than OAPs. I'm not sure where that one's come from though. You need to trust where this is all come from and check your sources, but there have been studies to show that. One study's actually found that the more distracted you are, the less able you are to experience empathy. Now, with that in mind, and particularly in these lockdown times where students are spending and your children are spending a lot more time online, it's important to strike a healthy balance, which is difficult. And here are some tips, and I need to bear these in mind as a parent myself. The first one is to set a good example yourself. For example, turning off notifications on apps to avoid that constant pinging in the background when you get a message or an update. It could be buying an alarm clock so you don't have devices in bedrooms, keeping phones on silent, and some people have a no phone at the table rule or certain timings of the day where no phones are allowed, just to encourage that away from technology experience that's so important. And then some families do their tech-free days or tech-free parts of days. The next key area is really to ensure that we talk to young people and you talk to your children about the time they spend online and agree appropriate lengths of time that they can use their device for. And why it's important to talk to them about it is that they're probably going to find a way if they really want to. You know, technology is out there and it's difficult to hide from, and getting that buy-in from them through talking to them and them understanding the benefits, but also the drawbacks is key. It's also important to vary the activity. So it's not often just purely being on for so long, but what are you doing online? So it's important to have that balance between learning, socializing and gaming. And as I said, at the moment, our learning's online more than ever before, approximately 4.5 hours per day they spend online learning. And so it's important to balance that out with socializing and gaming and also getting away from the screen. Getting the whole family to unplug, creating screen-free zones. And then the last one is the irony is not lost on me of using technology to reduce technology used, but there are actually apps out there that help with this. So one, for example, is called the Forest app, and you can set on your phone, you can get this app called a Forest app, and you can set it for, let's say, 45 minutes or however long you want, an hour, and you're not meant to touch your phone for that period of time. You put it down, and then during that period of time, a tree grows. And then if you end up picking up your phone, the tree dies and you don't get to add it to your forest. And by the end of a few days or weeks, then you've built this wonderful forest, which really illustrates the amount of time that you've taken away from your phone. So an example of how you can use a technology and app to actually reduce unwanted streaming and content. In terms of habits and the amount that children use and what they use the internet for, 98% of children, this is between 12 and 15, spend approximately 20 hours and 6 minutes a week. That's the average. Now, I appreciate that's significantly increased at the moment. And 27% of young people play games against people they've never met. Again, this just gives us a bit of context in what we're dealing with in terms of online safety. Secondary school children use an average of 5 social social networking sites. I would probably be pushed to name 5. I could probably name 5, but not that many more. And for parents of children between the age of 5 and 15, studies have shown that 42% haven't got much or any awareness of content filters, which I'll help you with and share some information in due course. With regard to risk, typically it's associated with the 3 C's, which stand for content, contact, and conduct. And I've broken them down in firstly what you can talk to young people about, and then advice for you on how you can deal with it. And underpinning all of them are five key tips, which is firstly understanding what those risks are, and that's why we're here today, part of the reason. Secondly is communicating those risks and communicating use of IT with our children. Keeping those risks in proportion, so making sure they're not blown up in someone's mind, and we keep perspective with them. Agreeing helpful mediation strategies, so how can we reduce either use or effect that it might have on us, and then developing coping strategies that foster resilience to potentially unwanted online behaviour. Content refers to anything that's out there on technology or on the internet, which would include violence, pornographic content, racist content, potentially hateful content. What you should talk to your children about is make yourself approachable so that they can come and speak to you if they see something that upsets them. If they have seen pornography, explain to them that it represents an unrealistic image of sex and relationships. Now, I certainly haven't shied away from anything in this presentation, and I don't think it's right to. And looking at the statistics, the average age for a young person to first view pornographic content online is 11 years. That's either through searching or because they've been exposed to it. So it's important to sort of to talk about it with them. And also to discuss the importance of respect for one another and the meaning of consent, so what consent means in terms of legally. For parents, for you, for top tips and tools to use, there are lots of parental controls you can use at home for your broadband. You can lock and restrict content, and you can restrict searches to child-friendly searches. And again, I'll give you some more information shortly. Contact. So who we are liaising with, speaking to, communicating with online could include harassment, could include grooming and ideological persuasion. What you should talk to your children about is that some people hide behind fake profiles, and we don't always know that who we're speaking to is actually who they say they are. Agree on how they're going to respond to requests from people they don't know in real life. So if someone would like to become friends with them or speak to them more regularly, how would they deal with that? And never ever agree to meet up with anyone that they don't actually know in real life. Top sort of tips or tools that you can use: set up safe social media profiles that don't share personal information. Turn off your location settings on devices for your children. Use the strongest privacy settings on social media, and also learn how to report, block, or mute people who have unwanted presence towards you. Conduct, so how we behave online, including cyberbullying, sexting, and sexual harassment. So what we need to discuss is that if anything is upsetting, that they can speak to you and they can speak to a trusted adult, either yourselves or indeed in school. If they feel comfortable speaking to someone, we can support them. Think very carefully about what they share and the images that they put out there, and be responsible. Remember that they're creating their own digital footprint. And by that, I mean that once they send a picture or a message or an image or something out online, it can never be taken back. And the consequences could be positive, but they could also be potentially harmful. Top tips and tools for parents is to report any inappropriate posts and content to social media providers, and to think carefully about, can you monitor the applications and identify, therefore, any inappropriate behaviour that is taking place, and again, report it to who you should do, which I'll talk about in a second. Sexting is defined as typically sending pictures to create a romantic attraction from, between young people typically, and it's potentially hard to control where those images might get sent onto, and therefore there's a potential minefield associated with it. And it's also important to share with young people that it's illegal to create or share a sexual image of a child that's under the age of 18. So not just it's hard to control and difficult to put out, but actually it's against the law. Top tips and tools for parents to use. Lots of authorities and governing bodies for safer internet, which I've researched over the years, have something called a t-shirt test. If you wouldn't wear a picture on your t-shirt, then you shouldn't share it online, as a very basic rule of thumb. And if your child is involved in sexting contact, i.e. they've recipient or they've witnessed something, then they can report it to the CEOP, and they can report it to Childline, who can help to remove images. Now, the CEOP is ultimately a branch of the police, and if you just search for that, it will come straight up. I don't worry about jotting any of this information down. I will put this on our website so that you can refer back to it for future reference. Cyberbullying. So habits of young people have changed since I, and I'm sure lots of you, were growing up. And these days, the average child posts on average 26 times per day on social media, and 6 out of 10 followers of people on different applications are friends in real world. And what that really translates to me is that 4 out of 10 aren't friends in real world. So who are they? And I've got another picture there to show you that really the habits that our young people are and our children display online. Lots of it is on social networks. Lots of it is beneficial and for learning and for gaming and keeping connected. But habits have changed very rapidly over the course of time. Now, why does that make it different to potential bullying face to face? Well, firstly, it's very hard to escape cyberbullying. It instantly reaches a wide population potentially because so many young people are online. In fact, 98%, as we've said before. It can be particularly repetitive, lots of different applications, lots of different people online. And the next thing is that it's 24 hours. So those apps, whereas you might be in school for a certain period of time, or you might be in a youth club, or you might meet up with someone, that's got a certain limit to it, but the internet's there 24 hours a day. Why it's also different is that people can benefit, if you like, for want of a better term, from anonymity, and actually exploit that anonymity to be potentially harmful to other people, or to bully other people. And it's very hard for for all of us, for parents, for schools, and for the platforms that devise these things to police what's going on. So actions to take is firstly to block unwanted action or people, to make sure we report it, to keep that evidence and then know when to take it further. So if there's anything that relates to school, then it can be reported to us. And then if there's anything else that you're particularly concerned about, you can go to the police and the CEOP, as I detailed in the previous slide. Some advice for you on parents as to discussions to have is to speak to your children and talk about thinking before you post, and that digital footprint, not putting something rashly, and really engaging your brain and your common sense before you put anything online. Be share aware, so if someone posts something to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's appropriate to send it to someone else, and just be aware of who people are sharing to. Manners are important, so treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Don't say online what you wouldn't say to someone in person, and just appreciate that it's difficult to see someone's reaction, their facial expressions. So if a young person speaking to another young person, they might be able to gauge that they're unhappy about how they're coming across or what they're saying, and therefore they would monitor how they say it. But online, those changes in how we behave to one another based on reaction is difficult to do. Speaking to young people, speaking to our children about not gossiping, provoking people and spreading rumours. Don't make fun out of people in online chat, because again, they probably feel like that it's not as much of a big deal as it is down the end of a computer where you feel like the world might be against you in certain situations. And really use the internet as positive, to inspire people, to motivate people, and to include people and to help people out. Okay, some advice on privacy and parental controls. Now, the vast majority of children have mobile phones, and the next 3 slides, I've put the links to the top there, and you can get some excellent information and resources about how to monitor either streaming sites, mobile phones, broadband, and a fairly comprehensive list of technology. For phones, we should teach young people to use a strong password, and we should ourselves as well, to make sure that we are using aliases, not personal pictures, not including personal information such as date of birth, to show children how to block people and how to report things to different social media sites, or even to schools, or to our school, to change settings to private, so to up our privacy settings, so not anyone who just searches for children's names can see what they've posted, to consider the minimum age of certain applications, not to accept friend requests from strangers, to make sure we switch off location services, because those can often give people information about where we are throughout the day, and again, once again, to tell children to think before they post. Now, those 2 links that I put up bring you to the following 2 pages. Now, one of them, it has this large picture, and it shows all the common social media sites that our children use. And you can click on each one, and it will give you information about how to control, how to block, how to up your privacy settings in a step-by-step basis. And again, the other link just shows you, really in the same format, but anything in terms of search engines, your broadband at home, social networking, and so on, about step-by-step guides. So just to make that a bit clearer to you and to help you, I have just given you one example, which a lot of children use, which is Snapchat, which I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, would have heard of. So if you go onto that website and you either click on the Snapchat icon or scroll down in the drop-down list and click on Snapchat, then it will tell you about the restrictions that you can apply. So you can restrict location, sharing data, sharing the location, inappropriate conduct, and how to report that. And then you can click on, firstly, notifications, and it gives you arrows on the actual application of what you need to click on in order to block someone, in order to report someone, and so on. For example, if you went onto Netflix, you can restrict the level of content that children watch, and you can set that at various different ages depending on what you feel is appropriate. So the fact that certain content has been given an 18 certificate is relevant, because what it dictates is that children don't necessarily have the emotional intelligence and understanding to deal with that, and it might affect them adversely. And therefore, it might be important to restrict that for your children. If anyone is affected by it, or if they witness something that they might need support in, there are different avenues of support that you can get. One is through the school directly, and you can email us at any point at safeguarding@harrisdulwichboys.org.uk. We also promote a website called Kooth, which is a free online counselling website, which is 24 hours a day. It's anonymous, and it has fully trained professional counsellors who can help children with whatever they would like to talk about. And then there's also the nestsouthwark.org.uk, which gives lots and lots of information about mental health and well-being, and how to support children and young people with their online presence. If you would like more information, and lots of this information I've got from these providers myself as well, and I've looked into in the past, there's Safer Internet, which are great, and they give lots of information about well-being, parental controls, how to restrict access, how to speak to young people, how to speak to your children about correct behaviours. Internetmatters.org, again, are brilliant with an online support pack for teachers and for parents. And then also the NSPCC, which give lots of information about well-being, about online safety. Thank you so much for listening. I've been conscious to give you a very broad picture in terms of knowledge, so that you understand what the risks out there are, and also advice for you to speak to young people, your children, about, but also where to get additional support. So if anyone's got any questions, then please feel free to post them in the chat. And I shall also ask Mr. Brett, who's there, if anything has come up at all, sir.
No, nothing yet, sir, but we're ready if people have got questions.
Excellent. And also feel free to unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. That's one of the reasons we've done this in a Zoom meeting.
I think everyone's happy, Mr. Bray.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, oh, we've got something just coming in there. Oh, you're very welcome. And yeah, if you'd like any more information, like I say, if anything crops up that you can't think of now, then feel free to email us at safeguarding@harrisdulwichboys.org.uk, or you can email myself as the designated safeguarding lead and vice principal, Ben Bray, so that's b.bray@harrisdulwichboys.org.uk. And I will bid you a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for listening.